Screenless. Phil Gregory, SEO consultant. Welcome to Creative Cuppa.
Thanks, Gareth. Thanks for having me on. It's really nice to be here.
You're very welcome. When I visited your website, peakdistrictseo.co.uk, there's a wonderful image. I presume it's of the Peak District from the name of the company.
It is, yes.
It looks really inviting, really lovely. And that's what SEO is about as well, being really visible as a website. Could you explain to those of us who kind of see it as this mystical art what SEO actually is?
Well, I will try to do it in a nutshell. So, in a nutshell, I will say SEO is optimizing websites for search, i.e. Google. Now, there are many ways to get your website found. You could pay Google ads and drive traffic directly to your website, or you could run some ads on social media or be very present on social media and hope people find your website from that. But what I focus on is organic search, and that just means natural search. So people come to Google or their search engine of choice and they type in a query for the thing they're looking for. So it might be garden designer, Macclesfield. And if you're a garden designer in Macclesfield, you want your website to come up on that first page of results. So do all the other regional garden designers.
Yeah, so I suppose in that, sorry to interrupt, in that instance, it would be brilliant if you called your company Macclesfield Garden Designer Limited.
That's a really good point, actually, because a few years ago, that was the perfect way to get your website found.
Yeah.
But Google kind of cottoned on to that.
Yeah.
Because what was happening was entrepreneurs who had a little bit of money to buy were buying up all the domains for every type of niche. Yeah. So they would be buying garden designer Macclesfield, Buxton, Manchester, Stockport, even though they weren't based in those areas. Yeah. And Google saw that as being unfair. So they've sort of curtailed the benefit of doing that now.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. So, SEO, optimization, making your website visible. On the website, again, you say, not only will we fix your broken sites, but we'll also help you develop content, which I guess is what I'm interested in most today, placing ads and scale your online visibility. Developing content is the most relevant to the creative side, I suppose, creating things. How do you go about creating content for a client? I suppose it differs from client to client, does it?
Yeah, of course, it does. It really depends on the client's budget as to what is actually possible. But let's take, for instance, a startup company. They've not been going long and they want to get a web presence. So developing content for them is relatively simple because they don't have a huge budget. So it's usually either we go and we take photographs to illustrate what it is they do, their staff, their people, their process. And then I am a certified copywriter, even though I don't push that aside of myself too much. And we marry the two together. So we wax lyrical about the business and we try to illustrate it with good photos and content, maybe video, maybe some social media gimmicks, but that's the creation of the content for a startup. For a company who has more budget, obviously, the world is your oyster. And I tend to hire in other professionals. So I might hire a company like, say, Eat, Sleep, Think to come and do the graphic design, or I might hire a copywriter or a videographer to actually fulfill the needs of the client to promote their e-commerce business. But that's really what creating content means. It's about filling the gap to match the search query of my client's users, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think it can be downplayed about how much time that actually takes for people who think, I could just do that on my own. It's only a few posts. The consistency required and the creativity required to, try and engage the audience. It takes a long time, that, doesn't it? Even just lining up posts, scheduling posts to go out, that takes a long time as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I try to always have a very candid conversation with my clients about being realistic, because it's all about budget. The more budget you've got, the faster the juggernaut will roll. If you're a startup, then you have to be realistic. You have to appreciate that getting going could take up to a year, really, before your traffic and leads start to roll in, simply because you have no presence and, you're competing against more established competitors. But I always say, let's park our egos. That's really key to succeeding on the web. Business owners, SEO guys like myself, web designers and web developers, there are all three big egos floating around and sometimes bumping into each other and clashing. But for us to get success, we really have to park the egos at the door and follow the money. So what I mean by that is making sure we do proper research. Like, it's not about what you think your customers want. If you take that approach, SEO will fail. You have to look at the data. What are my customers searching for? Who are my exact competitors and how are they beating me? That data will allow you to market directly.
It's honest stuff. There's some home truths in there, aren't there?
And there are. Very often you'll think, I know my customers search for this phrase. And when you check the data and you look back, that's completely way off the mark. And so many business owners are shocked when they see that.
Do you have to have some really difficult conversations with business owners to say, look, your products aren't working. your audience aren't looking for this kind of product?
On occasion, yeah. But I just tell them to look, let's promote the things that work and let's promote the things that actually have margin for you. It's easy to get excited about a niche product. That's exciting to us personally. But we have to, be grown-ups and ignore that and follow the money. And that will give you the revenue buffer to then promote the things that you're really interested in, So I try to sort of come across to the client and say, okay, not only is it, we have to park our egos, but we have to be consistent, as you said, scheduling posts, scheduling content. So, I try to get them to build in a calendar. And if they don't do it, I'll do it for them. I do have templates that will allow them to set a reasonable and realistic limit to the content that we create for them every month. Because I say, look, how much time can you or your team devote to this? Yeah. I mean, just got to be realistic. Again, there's no point saying we're going to do a blog every week if you cannot do it.
Yeah.
Because it just becomes uncomfortable for everyone. And then the client becomes unhappy, and we don't want that. So, I use a calendar to plan content. So we know, based on the historical keyword searches. So let's say you're the garden designer.
Yep.
I will look at the trend of searches around garden design across the previous year. So we kind of know when the peaks and troughs are, and then we look at the search terms. What are people searching for in August around garden design? And then we have, ideas that we can then write about and provide content so that you are relevant to your customers' search terms.
God, blimey. It is a dark art, isn't it? It's amazing if you know how.
This is the thing. I think, unfortunately, SEOs or SEO has this bad image. And I think it's just because it takes a long time to actually learn everything.
Yeah.
It's not terribly difficult. I would say anybody could probably get quite good at it within a couple of years. But there's a lot to learn.
But like you say, I think people are slightly afraid of things they don't understand, for a start. And the time it takes, I think people have a fear of that as well, when they're trying to do the work. Marketing, in inverted commas, is something that people it gets pushed down the list, doesn't it, of priorities when it's not a tangible thing that you've made or you've done. And so it's easy to kind of push away a little bit, but very, very important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that measurement is key, A lot of clients I speak to, I ask them, how are you tracking your visitors? How are you tracking your sales? How are you tracking your inquiries? And they often say, I'm not. I say, well, then how do we know if we're improving? Yeah. So, I try to help them with that as well.
Yeah. One thing that stopped me in the first place, I've now had a little bit of an SEO audit with a local firm, Ditton DGM, shout out. But it was the perceived cost. But on your website, anyone can contact you for an SEO audit, can't they?
They can, yes.
Is that a lot of money to do that?
It's not a lot of money, no. There are several tiers. I mean, in terms of cost, you talk about cost. SEO costs vary from the crazily cheap to the excessively expensive. And even I roll my eyes at some of the prices. I always try, I think, it's important to pitch at a human level. The types of businesses I'm trying to reach are small to medium-sized enterprises, and they're normal family people, probably parents, working parents like myself. So I'm trying to pitch somewhere in the middle, tradesmen's prices, and I think that's fair. You've got to pay a mortgage and keep food on the table, but I don't want to be sailing around a yacht in the Caribbean. You've got to be realistic.
One day.
Yeah, maybe one day. But in terms of SEO audits, people can come to me. My referrals, I will do the SEO audits very quickly for them. Whereas if someone comes to me directly, I'll have a conversation with them about what it is they're looking for. Now, if they're looking for a really deep dive, then the SEO audit is a chargeable thing. It's charged at my hourly rate. If people just want an overview, like, Phil, my website isn't showing up on search for anything. Can you tell me what's wrong with it? Then what I do is I produce a user testing video for them, which I do myself. So we're not at the mercy of some random company. It's me talking to you, telling you why your navigation doesn't work, or that your social media buttons aren't linked, or that your copy is too short. And I also produce them a PDF which will give them an overview of all the errors on the site. And what I mean by that is the technical errors, things like slow loading or not working for mobiles, etc., etc. Yeah, so it's not expensive to do that.
Yeah, and people can contact you right now through your website, which is peakdistrictseo.co.uk.
That's right, yes.
That is fantastic. Apart from that, where can people find you online?
I think nowadays the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I've found a new lease of life there, just talking to other business owners. It's absolutely key. I mean, it's not advice, but for anybody starting a new business, and my business is only 3 years old, really, even though I've been doing SEO for 21 years, talking to other business owners about their pain points is the absolute best advice I could give, and that's where you'll find them, LinkedIn or in other networking groups.
Great. Okay, I will put your website and I'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes for you. But for now, Phil Gregory, thanks so much for joining me for a cuppa.
Oh, thanks very much for having me, Gareth.